Papoose did not just get exposed by his wife. He got exposed by the one woman who spent years publicly begging for a seat at his table. And what Khia said about Papoose just ripped the mask clean off the Black Love King and changed this entire story overnight. Because if the woman who literally wore Papoose's face on her chest is now calling Papoose the Devil, then who else knew? Who else stayed quiet? And why are they still protecting him? Stay with me, because the last thing Khia typed is the part they do not want you to see. Hey everybody, welcome in. I am so glad you're here. I hope your day is treating you well. I am sending you good energy, good news, and a little bit of patience, because what we are about to walk through is going to test all three. Everything I am about to say is alleged. This is commentary, this is opinion, and this is strictly for entertainment purposes. The fair use notice under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976 is sitting in the description box, and my sources are down there too. Now let's get into it, because this mess is old, this mess is deep, and somehow this mess is brand new again. Here is why we are rewinding the tape today. The whole conversation around Papoose right now is about image. About the man who cared so much about how the public saw him. About the husband who looked perfect in every photo, who said all the right things on every red carpet, who built an entire brand of loyalty. And I keep telling y'all, the story did not start with the boxing champion. It did not start with the crash outs, and it did not start with the receipts Remy Ma finally put on the table. The story started years ago, in the strangest place you could imagine. It started with Khia. And for once in her life, Khia was standing on the right side of history. But before I show you what Khia said, I need to show you what Khia did, because the contrast is the entire story. Now, I can already hear somebody typing, why are we reaching all the way back to 2017? That was almost a decade ago. Why does it matter now? It matters because receipts do not expire. It matters because a lie does not become the truth just because it gets old. And most of all, it matters because right now, today, there is an active campaign to rewrite what happened in that marriage, to sand down the edges, to repaint Papoose as the wounded loyal soldier, and to make Remy Ma the villain of a story she did not author. You cannot fight a rewrite without the original text. And baby, the original text is sitting in Khia's comment section history, in a t-shirt from 2017, and in a pattern of silence from a whole lot of people who knew better. So no, this is not old news. This is the missing chapter. This is the context they were counting on you to forget. And let me say this before we go any further, because I know how the comment section gets. Some of y'all are going to come in here ready to defend Papoose on principle. Some of y'all grew up on the fairy tale, you watched that wedding, you cried at the vow renewal, and letting go of that image feels like letting go of something that belonged to you. I understand that. I really do. But I am asking you to do one thing for the length of this video. Do not argue with me yet. Do not argue with Khia yet. Just sit with the receipts in the order they happened. Because once you see the full timeline, the t-shirt, the interviews, the lives, the comment that broke it all open, you are not going to need me to convince you of anything. The pattern is going to introduce itself. And one more piece of housekeeping before we get to the good part. Everything in this video is alleged. Everything is my personal opinion formed from publicly available footage, interviews, and posts, and I encourage every single one of you to go look at the primary material yourselves. Do not take my word as gospel, and do not take anybody else's either. That is actually the entire point of this video. For years, the public took a carefully managed image as gospel. Look how that turned out. So we are going to walk through this step by step, and I am going to show you exactly why the loudest confirmation of Remy Ma's truth came from the woman who once posed as its biggest threat. Let us rewind the tape. Because here is the thing about Khia that makes this whole chapter so fascinating to me. Khia is not a politician. Khia is not a diplomat. Khia has never in her life been the person who holds her tongue to protect an image. Say what you want about Khia, and people have said plenty, but Khia has always been exactly who Khia is, out loud, in real time, consequences be damned. That is the woman who put that t-shirt on. And that same bluntness, that same inability to play the polite industry game, is exactly what makes her words today so hard to dismiss. People who lie for a living protect alliances. People who tell it raw, even when it costs them, tend to tell it raw about everybody. Keep that in your back pocket, because it matters when we get to the comment. Let me paint the picture for the people who were not outside back then. Khia, yes, that Khia, the one who gave us my neck, my back, the one who hopped on so excited with Janet Jackson and Jermaine Dupri and later tried to throw a little shade at Janet's vocals, which, flag on the play, we are never letting that go. Khia and Remy Ma never had love for each other. Not a little bit. Not at all. Khia spent years throwing shots at Remy Ma. Khia was the one who stood 10 toes down and said name 5 Remy Ma hits without a search engine. When the whole Nicki Minaj versus Remy Ma battle was burning the internet down, Khia had something sly to say about Remy Ma every single time. The shade was documented. The dislike was documented. There was a whole paper trail of Khia poking at Remy Ma whenever a microphone was within reach. And then Khia did the unthinkable. In 2017, Khia put on a t-shirt with Papoose's name and Papoose's face printed right across the front. Not her husband's face. Not her man's face. Remy Ma's husband's face. And Khia did not wear it quietly. Khia wore it proudly, on camera, and paired it with a little monologue about just how much respect she had for that man. Hold that thought. Because the audio is worse than the shirt. When Khia finally addressed the Remy Ma and Nicki Minaj situation, this is what came out of her mouth. She said people had been asking for her opinion, but she had been so busy enjoying her own success that she had not had time. And then she pivoted, and this is the part that aged like milk. She said something about Papoose. She said she had so much respect for Papoose. She called Papoose a black king. And then Khia said, out loud, on record, that because she respected Papoose so much, she thought it was best to keep her comments to herself, so she could keep him happy at all times. Keep him happy. At all times. A married man. Remy Ma's husband. I need you to sit with that. Now think about the timing. This was the era when Papoose and Remy Ma were the fairy tale. This was the golden child era. The love and hip-hop wedding, the vow renewal, the black love brand, the matching outfits, the magazine covers. Papoose had spent 6 years holding Remy Ma down while she was locked up, and the culture had crowned him for it. Nobody was allowed to question Papoose. Questioning Papoose was like questioning loyalty itself. And here comes Khia, wearing the man's face on her body, calling him a king, telling the world she wants to keep him happy. The backlash was instant. People dragged Khia up and down the internet for it. Lusting after somebody's husband that publicly was wild then, and it is wild now. But here is the twist that nobody saw coming. The same woman who risked it all for that man is the woman who just told the world he was never who you thought he was. And that is the pivot. That is the open loop I need you to hold on to. Because fast forward to now. Remy Ma gets on live, and Remy Ma does the thing nobody in that industry had the courage to do. Remy Ma told the truth. Remy Ma said Papoose was not the husband the cameras showed you. Remy Ma said she was the one paying for everything. Remy Ma said she covered Papoose for years, that she worked overtime to make Papoose look like a stand-up man, and that if the public ever found out how bad it really was behind closed doors, it would bring them to tears. Read that again. The woman who had every reason to protect her own image chose to burn the whole illusion down instead. And the internet did what the internet does. People picked sides. A whole camp formed overnight pushing one story, that Papoose was the victim, that Papoose was the saint, that if anybody stepped out first, it had to be Remy Ma. They said Papoose was a good man who got embarrassed by a disloyal wife. They pushed that story on blogs, on podcasts, in comment sections, everywhere. And Papoose let them push it. Papoose sat in interviews and let that narrative breathe. Which brings us to the moment this whole video is about. Because while the world was arguing, a voice from the past slid into the chat. And it was the last voice anyone expected. A fan account posted about the situation. And the caption said, "We knew it. Team Remy. Do not let the sweet face fool you. It is always the quiet ones who cheat the most." And then came the comment that broke the whole thing open. Khia herself pulled up. And what Khia typed was not shade. It was not a joke. It was a confession from somebody who had a front row seat. Khia said, word for word, that she does still love him lyrically, but right is right and wrong is wrong. And then Khia said the sentence that should have been headline news everywhere. Khia said he has always been the kept lady in the relationship. Kept lady. Let that marinate. Khia said she likes a manly man, not a prissy princess. And then Khia went further. Khia said Remy did not step out for nothing. Khia said he had been doing Remy dirty for a very long time, and yet Remy stayed, and Remy forgave, and Remy let him look like the perfect guy, but all the while, he was the devil. The devil. That is not my word. That is Khia's word, from Khia's own fingers, about the same Papoose she once wore on a t-shirt. Now let me tell you why those hits are different coming from her. If this came from a random page, you could wave it off. If it came from somebody in Remy Ma's camp, you could call it bias. But this came from Khia, a woman with a documented, years-long, on-camera crush on that exact man. A woman who publicly disrespected Remy Ma's marriage because of how she felt about him. A woman with every incentive in the world to take Papoose's side, to say the wife was bitter, to say the wife was lying. Khia had every reason to defend him, and Khia still said he was the devil. When your biggest fan becomes your loudest warning, you are not dealing with gossip anymore. You are dealing with a pattern. And we are not even at the worst part yet. Because Khia was not done. Khia kept typing. And this is where it gets juicy. Khia said, when they do it, it is okay. But when we do it, it is a problem. She said real men do not speak, they just move on. And then she dropped the line that sent a chill through everybody reading. She said, watch the ones who lie, then get mad, then get violent when they know they have been caught. She said just take the loss. And right on the end of it, Khia attached the title of her own song, Do Not Trust Nobody, with the music notes and everything. Now, was it a little self-promo? Sure, Khia is going to be Khia. But listen to what the placement tells you. Khia did not attach that song to a random post. Khia attached Do Not Trust Nobody to a post about Papoose, while calling Papoose the Devil, while warning women about the quiet ones who lie and then get violent. That is not marketing. That is a message. And here is what I need you to understand about the weight of it. Khia is not an outsider guessing. Khia moved through the same rooms. The same radio stations, the same industry events, the same circles where everybody knows everything and says nothing. And Khia just told you, in plain language, that what Remy Ma said was true, that the dirt went back years, and that the nice quiet image was a costume. So my question is simple, and I want you to hold it for the rest of this video. How many other people knew? Because Khia cannot be the only one. And that question is going to get a lot louder by the time we are done. Let me show you how deep the image protection went, because this is where Papoose's own mouth betrays him. Papoose sat down with DJ Vlad, and Papoose said, proudly, that your woman is a reflection of you. Remember that. Because when Papoose was with Remy Ma, the reflection was flawless. Remy Ma was polished. Remy Ma was in business mode. Every appearance said power couple. Every interview said black love. They had the talk show couches, they had the cover shoots, they had the brand deals, they had the televised wedding, they had the vow renewal, they had the baby everybody celebrated. They were selling a story, and let me be clear, it sold. Couples goals. Relationship blueprint. He held her down, she held him up. Beautiful. And Remy Ma now says she was the one holding all of it, the money, the bills, the image, the forgiveness, while the man in the matching outfit was something else entirely once the cameras cut. Now look at the reflection today. The new chapter is scandal stacked on scandal. It is crash outs, it is beef, it is interview after interview where the story gets shakier. And where is Papoose when the fire gets hot? That is the detail I cannot get past. Whenever the internet is dragging the news situation up and down the timeline, Papoose is nowhere. Silent. Missing. But let a big event come around, let there be a headline to ride or an award show moment to comment on, and suddenly Papoose has a voice again. And what does Papoose use that voice for? To promote. A fight. A song. Music that, respectfully, has been sitting there. Papoose knows exactly what he is doing. Papoose knows you are checking his page to see if he will defend his woman. And instead of a defense, you get a flyer. Instead of accountability, you get a rollout. That should tell you everything. And yet, when Papoose sat down with the Breakfast Club, Papoose had the nerve to flip it. Papoose looked DJ Envy and Charlemagne in the face and essentially asked, if I was cheating all those years, where were the stories? Where were the headlines? And on the surface, that sounds like a solid point, until you think about it for more than 10 seconds. First of all, social media was not what it is now. Things did not travel the way they travel today. Second, and this is the part Papoose is counting on you not understanding, some women do not blow up spots. Some women stay quiet because they were chosen to stay quiet. A man who is careful does not get caught by headlines. A man who is careful gets caught years later, by the wife he thought would never talk. There is a difference between no evidence and no exposure. Papoose is betting you cannot tell the two apart. And there is more, because there were whispers back then, including one about an outside child that made it all the way into a tabloid before the trail went strangely cold. I am not saying it was true. I am saying it vanished, and things do not vanish by accident. Now let me address the biggest lie in this whole saga, because it is the load-bearing lie. It is the one the whole pro-Papoose argument is built on. They say Remy Ma cheated first. They say Remy Ma was the one who broke the marriage and Papoose was just the loyal man who got played. Hear me when I say this. Even taking everything at face value, the timeline does not cooperate with that story. The man Remy Ma was linked to after everything fell apart, that was after. After years, her words, years of lies, of cheating, of manipulation. After the bills stopped getting paid. After, allegedly, the jewelry started disappearing into pawn shops. After Papoose, by Remy Ma's own account, was sleeping on Remy Ma's couch, in Remy Ma's house, refusing to leave, refusing to sign divorce papers that gave him nothing, no claim to Remy Ma's money, no claim to Remy Ma's properties, nothing. That is not a marriage anymore. That is an occupant. And Khia's comment slides right into that timeline like a key into a lock. He had been doing her dirty for a very long time, and she stayed and forgave. That is what Khia said. Khia did not say the marriage broke because Remy Ma wandered. Khia said it broke because he was the devil in a good guy costume. And do not miss what else Remy Ma exposed in those lives, because it changes the shape of everything. When the new relationship went public, the story the other side wanted was that it was real, it was serious, it was a fresh start. And then Remy Ma revealed that the new woman was not the only woman. That there was a roster. A whole lineup. While Papoose was allegedly stretched out on Remy Ma's couch, talking about reconciliation, talking about working it out, Papoose was juggling multiple women at once. So when you see the new couple and it looks chaotic, when it is a mess stacked on a mess, remember what Papoose told DJ Vlad. Your woman is a reflection of you. Baby, the mirror is talking. The mirror is screaming. Which brings me to the contradiction that should end the debate by itself. The new situation loves to hype up that Papoose has hands. There have been interviews bragging that he gets active, that he will fight. And I just want somebody to ask the obvious question. Fight who? Men? Women? Because bragging that your man puts hands on people while claiming you have never experienced that side of him, while the ex-wife is out here describing years of darkness, while a woman from the past is warning everybody about the quiet ones who lie and then get violent, that is not the flex you think it is. That is a red flag being waved in your own hand. The dots are connecting themselves at this point. All anybody had to do was stop connecting them on purpose. Now I have to be fair, because the receipts demand fairness. There is nothing to defend about what Khia did in 2017. Wearing that t-shirt was disrespectful. Talking about keeping a married man happy was disrespectful. Layering it on top of years of shots at Remy Ma made it uglier. If we are keeping score, that era of Khia was out of bounds, full stop. And it is not lost on me that the woman who once behaved that way is now the woman confirming the marriage was a performance. Life comes at you fast. One day you are wearing the man's face, the next day you are calling him the devil in a comment section. If that does not show you how far the fall has been, nothing will. And in a way, Khia walking that road first makes her testimony heavier. She was not an enemy of Papoose looking for a weak spot. She was an admirer who got close enough to see the machinery. And what Khia saw made Khia type what Khia typed. So let me ask the question this entire video has been building toward, because it is bigger than one marriage and bigger than one man. How many people knew? Khia knew enough to say he had been dirty for years and to warn about the violence that follows the lies. Who else sat in those studios? Who else did those interviews? Who else broke bread at those events and watched Papoose play the perfect husband while knowing the script? Radio hosts, bloggers, fellow artists, industry friends, the same people who smiled in the photos. Somebody booked those appearances. Somebody heard the whispers. And the question that keeps me up is not whether people knew. The question is what they got for staying quiet. Was it access? Was it friendship? Was it just easier to let Remy Ma carry the secret than to be the one who said it out loud? Because that is how these things always work. It is never one man and one lie. It is a whole room full of people who decided the lie was more useful than the truth. Remy Ma was not just covering for Papoose. A whole ecosystem was covering for Papoose. And it took the one woman nobody would ever call Team Remy, a woman who spent years on the other side of that fence, to finally say the quiet part in writing. But let me tell you why the silence of the witnesses bothers me more than the lie itself. A lie needs one person. A cover-up needs a village. Think about how many sets, how many green rooms, how many radio interviews, how many award show tables these two sat at together for over a decade. Think about how many hosts leaned in and asked them the secret to their marriage with a big smile on their face. You are telling me that in all those rooms, with all those people, nobody ever saw a crack? Nobody ever heard a story? Nobody ever watched the dynamic up close and thought, something is off here? I do not believe that. I have been around this industry too long to believe that. The entertainment world runs on whispers. Everybody knows everybody's business. The whispers about Papoose existed, they had to, because Khia heard them clearly enough to say years of dirt with total confidence in a public comment. So the whispers were moving. They were just moving through rooms where everybody had agreed, without ever saying it out loud, that the brand was worth more than the truth. And do not tell me it was about protecting Remy Ma either, because that excuse collapses the second you look at it. Protecting Remy Ma would have meant telling Remy Ma's truth when Remy Ma finally told it herself. Instead, when Remy Ma got on with those lives and put her whole heart on the floor, a lot of those same voices went quiet, or worse, they both sidestepped it. They said things like, well, we do not know what really happened. Marriage is complicated. There are two sides. There were not two sides when it was time to sell the Black Love merch. There was no confusion when it was time to book the couple on the couch. The clarity only got blurry when the truth threatened the narrative. That is not protection. That is investment. Those people were not protecting a friend. They were protecting a product they had all helped sell. And Remy Ma was the cost of doing business. Here's the other thing that does not get said enough. What Khia described, the staying, the forgiving, the covering, the making him look perfect while he was the devil behind the curtain, that is not a celebrity problem. That is an every woman problem. How many women watching this right now have done exactly that math in their own lives? Stayed 1 year too long. Forgave one time too many. Smiled in the family photo while carrying a secret that was eating them alive. Told everybody he was a good man because saying otherwise meant admitting how bad it really was. That is why this story has a chokehold on people, and it is why Remy Ma's lives hit like an earthquake instead of a headline. It was not gossip. It was recognition. Millions of women watched Remy Ma describe their own living rooms. And that is also why the pushback was so vicious, because once you admit it happened to Remy Ma, you have to admit it happens everywhere, to women with far less money, far less fame, and far fewer exits. The story is not really about Papoose. Papoose is just a case study. The story is about how the whole world conspires, politely, quietly, profitably, to keep a woman's mouth shut about a man's behavior. So when Khia says she stayed quiet until the truth came out, I hear two things at once. I heard a confession, because Khia knew and said nothing for years, and that silence helped hold the lie up. But I also hear an indictment, because if Khia knew, Khia was not the only one. Khia is not in the inner circle. Khia was not at the wedding. If the woman on the outside looking in, the woman who admired from afar with a T-shirt, knew enough to call him the devil, what did the people at the actual table know? What did the wedding guests know? What did the label people, the TV people, the podcast people know? That is the question that turns this from a celebrity story into an industry story. And once it becomes an industry story, everybody involved has a reason to make it go away. Watch how hard they try. Watch how fast the conversation gets redirected to what Remy Ma did wrong, to who Remy Ma dates now, to anything except the one question that matters. Who knew about Papoose, and when did they know it? And here is the part that should make everybody at that table nervous. The truth does not need permission anymore. It used to be that a story like this lived or died by whether a big outlet picked it up, whether a publicist could kill it, whether the right people made the right phone calls. That era is over. Now the truth comes out on a Tuesday night live stream in somebody's living room, and it cannot be recalled. Remy Ma did not need a magazine to vindicate her. Remy Ma needed a phone and the nerve to finally stop protecting a man who never protected her. And Khia did not need an interview to confirm it. Khia needed a comment section and a moment of honesty. That is the new reality, and it is why the old protection systems are failing. The whispers escaped the room. And once the whispers escape the room, the only people still defending the story are the ones who are in it. Let me also put some respect on what this moment meant for the culture, because context is everything here. That Papoose, the one on the T-shirt, was not just a husband. He was a symbol. In a genre that gets dragged constantly for how it talks about women, here was a man whose entire public identity was devotion. He visited that prison faithfully. He wrote letters. He showed up. When Remy Ma came home, he was standing there. And the culture, starving for that kind of story, ate it up and asked for seconds. They were not just a couple. They were evidence. Evidence that Black love could survive the system, survive 6 years apart, survive the industry. So understand what it would have cost anybody back then to stand up and say, this is not what it looks like. You would not have been just accusing a man. You would have been burning down a monument. That is why the silence held for so long. It was not cowardice, exactly. It was that nobody wanted to be the one to tell the congregation that the preacher's marriage was a stage play. And so the stage play ran, season after season, and the ticket was Remy Ma's piece. Think about the machinery that kept it running. There were producers who needed that love story for ratings. There were brands who needed it for campaigns. There were blogs who needed it for clicks on the slow weeks. There were fans, and I include a lot of y'all watching, who needed it for hope. That is a powerful coalition. When that many people are invested in a story being true, the truth does not stand a chance until somebody with nothing to gain decides to talk. And that is what makes the two voices in the saga so perfectly matched. Remy Ma had everything to lose and talked anyway. The woman in the t-shirt had every reason to keep worshipping and talking anyway. One from inside the house, one from outside the fence, and both of them pointing at the same man saying the same thing. In a courtroom, that is called corroboration. On the internet, apparently, it is called hating. Funny how that works. And while we are talking about corroboration, let us not skip past the language the insiders use when they think nobody is analyzing. Kept lady. Khia did not say he was broke. Khia did not say he was lazy. Khia said he was kept, like a kept woman, maintained, funded, carried. That is a specific accusation, and it matches Remy Ma's account word for word. Remy Ma said she paid for everything. Remy Ma said she covered for him. Two women, years apart, no coordination, no friendship between them, no shared motive, describing the exact same arrangement. That is not a coincidence. That is a fact finding its way out through two different doors. And then, as if the point needed a highlight marker, she called him a prissy princess and said she likes a manly man. The admiration died, y'all. The woman who once wanted to keep him happy at all times now would not keep him at all. People do not turn like that over gossip. People turn like that over knowledge. I keep coming back to the song plug too, because it is doing more work than people realize. She could have promoted that record anywhere, under any post, any day of the week. She chose a post about the fall of the Black Love King. She chose the exact moment she was calling him the devil to remind everybody that she has been telling women for years, do not trust nobody. That is either the most shameless promo in history or the most honest. And honestly, I think it is both, and I think that is the entire personality in one gesture. She warned you in a song years ago. She ignored her own warning when it was him, and now she is back to the warning with the receipt of her own mistake attached. There is something almost poetic about it. The t-shirt said one thing in 2017. The comment says the opposite now. Both were sincere. That is the whole tragedy of the image in miniature. Everybody was sincere about a man who was performing. And can we talk about the anger line one more time, because it deserves its own spotlight. Watch the ones who lie, then get mad, then get violent when they know they have been caught. Read that slowly. That is not a description of cheating. That is a description of a cycle. Life first, rage second, hands third. She did not attribute that cycle to men in general in that comment. She posted it under a story about one man, in a thread about one man, in the middle of sentences about that same man. Context is not a defense attorney, context is a witness. And the context says she was telling you something specific. Now, I am not a court, and this is all alleged, and everybody gets their day. But when the ex-wife hints at darkness behind the doors, and the former admirer warns about the violence after the lies, and the new girlfriend brags about his hands in interviews like it is a selling point, at a certain point the smoke is not coming from individual fires anymore. The smoke is the climate. And people need to stop pretending they cannot feel the heat. Here is what I find myself wondering late at night about this whole saga. What does it take for a woman like the one in that t-shirt to flip? Because she did not flip for clout. Let us be serious. There is no chart position in defending Remy Ma, a woman she has shaded for years. She did not flip for money. She did not flip because the timeline rewarded it. The timeline actually drags you for switching sides. She flipped because whatever she saw or heard or finally allowed herself to believe was heavier than the crush. That is a high bar, y'all. Parasocial love is strong. People defend their favorites against video evidence, against court documents, against their own lying eyes. To move a woman from wearing his face to calling him the devil, the truth had to be undeniable. Not suggestive. Not probable. Undeniable. And she is out here telling you it was, in her own words, with her own song attached like a signature. Believe women when they warn you about men, even and especially when the warning costs them their fantasy. So the next time somebody tells you the story of this marriage, watch which version they hand you. If they hand you the version where a loyal king was betrayed by an ungrateful wife, ask them one question. Ask them why the king's most devoted subject burned the castle down on her way out. Ask them why the wife who built his image chose to destroy it at her own expense. Ask them why the woman who wanted him now warns women about him. People rewrite history all the time, but they can only rewrite it if you agree to forget the footnotes. The footnotes here are a t-shirt, a talk show couch, a set of lives, and a comment thread that reads like a confession booth. Keep the footnotes. The footnotes are the story. Look at where we are now. Remy Ma is standing in her truth, in business mode, handling hers, exactly the reflection Papoose once bragged about, except now the reflection belongs to her alone. Papoose is on a couch he cannot stay on, in a story he cannot control, watching a narrative he built brick by brick get dismantled by the two people who knew it best, the wife who built his image and the fan who worshipped it. And Khia, of all people, walked away with the cleanest line of the entire saga. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Coming from her, with her history, with that t-shirt in the archives, that line lands like a gavel. Because if even the woman who wanted him will not defend him, then the defense is over. There is nobody left to carry the story. The jury in the comment section already has the evidence. I told you at the top that the last thing Khia typed was the part they did not want you to see. So here it is one more time with a full weight on it. He has always been the kept lady. Remy did not step out for nothing. He had been doing her dirty for a very long time. She stayed. She forgave. She let him look perfect. And all the while, he was the devil. That is the loop closed. That is the mask off. And the only question left is the one I am leaving with you, because I want the comments to cook. How many more Khias are out there? How many people in that industry watched Remy Ma drown behind a smile and said nothing because the brand was too profitable? And be honest, after everything you just heard, do you still believe Papoose was the victim in this story, or was Papoose the author of it the entire time? And before anybody tries to spin what Khia did as just another celebrity pile-on, understand what it actually cost her. She did not gain a fan base by defending Remy Ma. She did not trend for it. She gained nothing except the peace of finally saying what she knew. In a culture where silence is profitable and honesty is expensive, that counts for something, and I am going to give it to her. Get in the comments and let me know where you stand. Are you Team Remy, or do you still think there is another side of this we have not seen? And tell me this too, because I am genuinely curious. Does Khia get any credit for finally telling the truth, or does the t-shirt cancel the testimony? If this video opened your eyes, do me a favor and share it with somebody who still thinks the quiet ones are always innocent. Hit that like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you have not already, and tap the notification bell so you never miss when I post, because this story is nowhere near finished. There are court documents floating around, there are interviews aging worse by the day, and there is at least one more person from that inner circle who is going to talk. When they do, you are going to want to already be sitting here. Trust me. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your circle honest, and remember, the quiet ones always have the loudest secrets. I will see you on the next one. Peace.